This video is going to show you all of the materials and supplies that you have to use at the 2D Studio. You will notice that at the end of your table you have a garbage can so that you can sharpen pencils in the garbage can. You also have a clean bin of rags and a dirty bin of rags so that whenever you need to clean off any paint from your table, you're taking from the clean bin, putting them in the dirty bin when they're dirty. The power plug here is to plug in the light box that I'll show you in a second if you want to use the light box at your studio. The sinks are also for your use for cleaning any of your supplies. At your studio you have a container with markers, scissors, rulers, glue sticks, triangle rulers, and compasses on the bottom there. And on the side of that container has a picture of where all of those supplies should go. So make sure that at the end of the class period, the glue sticks are in the glue stick area, scissors are in the glue stick area, and rulers are in the ruler area. Otherwise, these materials will be taken away from you if we cannot use them properly. On the table, we have all of the supplies that we will need. You can see that the light box is here underneath the table. If you need to use that, you can carefully take it and put it on the table and plug it into the electrical cord. We have textbooks on the left-hand side, and here are most of our drawing supplies. We have, oh, the label was not turned out here. Make sure that when we're putting boxes away, we are putting them away with the labels out. So we have Prismacolors and colored pencils here in this box. We have drawing ebony pencils and erasers and pencil sharpeners and shading sticks in this container. And we also have, if you want to visually measure an object, you can use the cones that are also in this, in that little shelf there. Make sure that you're paying attention to the drawing paper and what each paper is supposed to be used for. So you'll notice that the tempera paint here, it says 1 per person for both the project and experiments. This paper up here is just for your experimenting for the tempera paint. If you're using watercolor paper, you are experimenting with this paper here, and then you are taking this watercolor paper for your project. So make sure that you are not using that for experimenting because this is very expensive paper. Drawing paper for your final project is here. If you want to sketch, this is the paper that you will use here. And again, on the bottom of this little organizer is a picture of how this should look at your studio. If there are blacked out areas, those are areas that you don't need to use right now, that are just there to make sure that you remember that you don't need to use them because they are level 3 or level 4 materials in there. Below the table, we have a box or container of different types of paper that you can play around with and experiment with. If you are interested in, let me know and I can cut you down a smaller size. We also have our watercolor supplies here and tempera paints. You will also notice, this is really important, that you realize that there's a color wheel here because this will be really helpful for you if you're using the paint. Our watercolor supplies are only for, these brushes are only for watercolor, and then making sure that we are carrying the watercolor paint trays flat. We also have some rubber cement back here for watercolor and some salt, a container of salt. This is our brush for rubber cement so that we're not getting our nice brushes dirty with rubber cement. And then again, we have a picture here of how that container should look. It's a little different, but pretty self-explanatory with how that should look. Then we have the tempera paint supplies, where we have the tempera paint brushes, we have some bigger brushes, we have some palette knives, and then we have some sponges that you can experiment with. And then again, the picture of how that should look. Next to that, we have some paint palettes. This is where you're going to put your tempera paint on and mix colors on this paint tray and making sure that you clean it at the end of class. These water cups are for tempera paint or watercolor paint. And then on the side, we have all of the different kinds of paint here that you would need to use. And if you need to mix a full-sized container of paint, you can take one of these containers, mix your color, write your initials on the lid, and put the lid on it at the end of class so that you can save it for the end, for the next day. Your supply area is going to be these drying racks where you see your class period number. Whether it is a wet painting or a drawing, you can put it on the drying rack. If you would rather have a flat surface, you can use this first section of shelving right here for you to use for any of your storage.